Welcome to Elevate, the masterclass where we dissect the elements of exceptional achievement and lifestyle design with a focus on personal growth and real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Tyler Chesser.
Elevate Nation, welcome back. This is Tyler Chesser. I'm so thankful to have you here, and I'm blessed and grateful to be sitting with Ryan McKenna. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing great, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, it's funny, before the show, we're sitting here talking about, all the different challenges we're facing personally and in the world as a whole. Maybe we almost solved the world's problems, but maybe not quite. But what do you think about that, Ryan?
We made some good progress. It might not get solved today, but we're definitely cracking away at it.
Yeah, at least by the end of the week, we've got it all handled. So
I think we can do it by then, yeah.
I like it. So maybe by the end of the show, we'll solve some other problems. We'll create some new opportunities, that's for sure. But I want to welcome Elevate Nation back because it's absolutely time to take it to another level. We're going to be doing that today because I want to welcome you back to the show where our mission is to identify and apply how the best of the best raise the bar personally and professionally to achieve greatness in real estate and beyond. And of course, you know that this show is all about learning about the mindset, the habits, the routines, the systems, the tools, the strategies, and so much more from an individual like Ryan McKenna so that you can elevate to a life without limits yourself. And I really believe that that's possible through investing in real estate, through investing in your own personal growth and your own constant and never-ending improvement, because those two forces are some of the most powerful forces in the world. And obviously, when you layer over, the compound effect of continuing to show up on a daily basis and the compound effect of what you can do through real estate, obviously, there's really no limits. And so that's what we're all about on this show. This is a masterclass for leaders and those looking to achieve uncommon results and purposeful outcomes through real estate investing and ultimately in their lives. If you appreciate what we're doing on the show, I'd certainly be grateful if you subscribe to the show, if you gave us a rating, a review, a 5-star rating if you're so inclined. It certainly helps us. Our goal is to reach this message to millions of people. I know, Ryan, you probably agree with me on this, but I know that when I started my professional career, I was kind of riding that corporate ladder, and it was like, man, most of the people around me were tolerating their life. They were tolerating, what they had to go through and the lifestyle that they had to live. And I'm not saying that that's, incorrect for everyone, but I can tell you that there's a life of fulfillment. There's a life of happiness and joy and abundance on the other side of fear, uncertainty, and growth. And I can tell you that I've found that. And I believe, Ryan, you would probably agree that we found that through real estate and through investing in yourself. So that's what this show is all about. And let's reach that message to more people. Is there anything you'd say on that, Ryan?
Well, I look at life as a journey, and then, there's a lot of different, phases we go through, but I think going after, your dreams, your passions, and then, for me, it was getting into real estate and seeing how that has opened up and changed my lifestyle and having more time with my family and being able to do things that maybe I couldn't do because I didn't have the flexibility before. And so, I'm a big believer in, going and chasing your dreams and trying to design, a purposeful life that is meaningful to you and others. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that and achieve it. But certainly I think we've found common ground in real estate. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So with that said, I want to introduce the audience here to Ryan McKenna, who is a full-time real estate investor, syndicator, and the founder of McKenna Capital, a private equity company that helps people invest passively in real estate syndications. Focusing on value-add, multifamily, self-storage, and manufactured home parks, McKenna Capital has helped hundreds of investors around the country to invest in commercial real estate assets totaling over 10,000 units with an asset value just north of $1 billion. So obviously, Ryan, you've got a tremendous amount of experience, and obviously, you bring, your unique background to the table and obviously connect folks to opportunities. And, would love to learn about sort of where does the drive come from, because you just strike me as the type of individual who is always striving for excellence. Where does that come from?
I would say it's something that, at an early age, I just had always wanted to achieve certain things and just really strive for excellence and success. And I think, a lot of that was modeled off of, having a vision for what I want to do in life and how I want to live life. And I think my wife always says, I need to do a better job living in the present because I'm always thinking of the future and my goals and how I'm going to get there. But that's just always how I've thought, even at a young age. And I've just kind of tried to set the bar high. And I'm a big believer in what the the mind can conceive and believe you can achieve. And so that's just been kind of just how I've looked at different things in my life, and it's really allowed me to have a fun journey. Nothing's ever perfect, but I've tried to set high goals, and once you achieve those, then you adjust and make them even harder and more challenging. And I think not everyone achieves everything you want, but it's the journey and the process that is a lot of fun. And I think at an early age, what my first big goal was to play baseball in college. That was something that I loved, striving to try to put myself in a position to play Division I baseball. And specifically at Arizona State. I recall a moment when I think it was 12 years old. I drew a picture of myself playing center field, and around it I had ASU and just all the things. I had my workout right next to it, all the things I was doing at a young age. And I didn't really know that it would happen. I just said, I'm going to work as hard as I can, and I'm going to give myself shot to be in a position that maybe I could go play at a kind of a high caliber program like Arizona State. And I just day in and day out just kept chipping away, working at it and learning and trying to get better, and then eventually put myself in a position, and then actually fulfilled one of my dreams early on to play baseball at Arizona State. And so I think that kind of set the stage for how I look at things, because that was a very audacious goal. When they can kind of handpick who they want to recruit, and a kid from Elgin, Illinois, that how is he even getting that opportunity? I think I really started to believe that, wow, I could do things in life that maybe others felt like I couldn't, or that they just didn't think were possible. So I've tried to take that mindset through business now and just my life in general. So that's kind of just been my take on maybe I was born a little bit with the personality of just trying to just think that you could do everything, and then realizing you can't, but that as long as you get back up and you keep fighting, maybe you can claw your way to your goals and your dreams. And that's just kind of just been my personal story.
That's awesome. And it's almost like you were born with this inherent vision that you made your dreams a reality, where you're even describing there where you were kind of drawing out sort of the baseball with Arizona State logo on it. Is that right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I can recall even when I was in school, I would be drawing pictures of a house that I wanted someday, and I would just design it, and I'd just be just kind of spacing off. But it was I put that into action too. It wasn't just oh, hey, I want to dream big, and then, maybe I'll win the lottery. It was no, I was dreaming big, but then I also had a purpose. And I think the visualization kind of set in motion, just the process that would follow. I mean, I didn't have a set, process and the steps all laid out, but just having that vision, my mind kind of went there. And along the way, I would pick up things that would really help me get closer to that goal. And so I felt like as long as I was moving forward, making progress, I was able to achieve a lot of different things in life that I wanted, just because I was focused and disciplined once I kind of knew, the direction I wanted to head in.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think is the difference between folks that, put their dreams into action and those that just dream and never make them happen? I mean, out of curiosity, what would you say is the difference between the ones who actually make it happen and those who just continue to dream and, never get there?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it'd be frustrating to want something and then just to not be able to feel like you're moving forward towards it. But at the same time, I'd have to look myself in the mirror and be like, well, that's on me for not trying or not working hard enough. And just because you work hard enough doesn't mean that you're going to ultimately achieve everything. But I think, it's that effort that you put into it, and that is fulfilling in a way when you're trying to strive for something. And even if you don't reach your goal, I mean, you're going to achieve many along the way that you didn't even think about initially. And I think you're just going to have a more fulfilling life. So I'm a big believer in just taking action. And as long as you're showing up and you're present and you're trying to do the right things, I mean, good things are going to happen along the way. It's, I don't know, it'd be frustrating to be in a world where you just, you think all this good stuff's going to happen, but then you just don't take any action, because nothing really is going to happen unless you get lucky or someone comes into your life and it just, gives you what you want. But that to me would get old after a while. I think there's something that is very rewarding about putting in the hard work and the effort, and achieving something that maybe was, outside of your limits of what you initially thought. It's pretty cool when that happens, because you just feel like you're just expanding your mind and your capability as a human, and then to be able someday to try to help others is, that's pretty fulfilling.
This episode of Elevate is brought to you by CF Capital, a real estate investment firm that focuses on acquiring and operating multifamily assets that provide stable cash flow, capital appreciation, and a margin of safety. Our team, including yours truly, leverages its expertise in acquisitions and management to provide investors with superior, risk-adjusted returns while placing a premium on preserving capital. Our mission is to provide property investment and asset management solutions to help investors maximize their returns by investing in high-value multifamily communities. To learn more about future opportunities, visit cfcapllc.com. Again, that's cfcapllc.com. Yeah, and you said something earlier that what the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. And I totally resonate with that. I know that that's a Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich quote, because, it's so interesting is because it is about thinking. It is about planting those seeds. It is about visualizing the outcome. And then no doubt it's about putting it into action and picking up, those things along the way and those clues. It's almost like when you have that visualization of what your end result is, you start to find the resources that can get you there. Was that your experience along that path and perhaps even along your path for business as well?
Yeah, it was, because I would always seek out, like, I never got jealous of other people who were better than me, who were more successful than me. I just wanted to hang around them and learn from them. I mean, that's how I view what I do today and what I did back then when I was trying to, compete in baseball and get better. It's like I wanted to play against people that were better than me, because that's how I was going to get better. And so I embraced that. And that's why I chose to go to a school like Arizona State. I knew it was going to be very challenging to break into the lineup and to play, because they're getting the best, talent from across the country. But that experience was going to elevate me to a level that, like, I never thought, I'd actually really be in. And here I was playing against some of the best competition in the country. And it just made me better as a teammate, as a person. And I've taken a lot of those skills into the business world. And so I continue to keep pushing myself to keep evolving, keep learning, keep getting better. And so I would say at this point, it almost seems natural to me, because it's just been drilled into me for so long, and I don't even really have to think about it. It's just, I'm naturally drawn to people who are doing things that maybe I want to do someday, and I enjoy hanging around them and learning from them. And I'm also curious. I love to hear how someone started a business or came up with an idea. I mean, that type of story is fascinating to me, because it's like someone is, fulfilling a dream or an idea or a thought that they put into action. And I love to hear, how they did it and the impact it's now making on their life. And so that's just kind of been what's really motivated me, is being around others that are trying to do the same thing.
I love it. And I know that you just mentioned there, maybe you even plugged it for the show, the experience elevated you. And it is interesting how that when you place yourself in a bit of uncomfortable positions, positions of growth, you get elevated, and the people around you who are perhaps at a place where you want to be, they elevate you to the next level or to, closer to perhaps where they are. You pick up on their skills, you pick up on their habits, their routines, who they are as an individual, their identity perhaps becomes a part of your identity. So I think it's just so powerful what you're saying. And I'd love to kind of fast forward a bit. I mean, where you've been now, and obviously you've built a substantial real estate portfolio, you've gotten quite involved across really the country. And I'd love to know, I mean, what was that trajectory like, and how did you get there? And tell us a little bit about that, and how did vision play a role in that?
Yeah. So an early 2000s is when, multifamily syndication really kind of came into my world. And it was actually a teammate of mine at Arizona State. His father was an apartment syndicator. And so I got to talking after a game one night about, what his business was all about. And that's when I really learned about a syndication and pooling capital together to buy these large apartments. And at the same time, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad book came out. So it was kind of like, wow, I had this blueprint from this book about, buying these assets and cash flow, and just, I had like kind of a process that I could follow. But then I had this person over here who was doing it in real life. And that was someone that I gravitated towards, that I wanted to, learn as much as I could, and who became like a mentor to me over the years. And so that's really how I got introduced and learned about it. But it took me many years before I kind of had some of the capital to really start investing. I started in 2006 with some single family rentals, just like most, kind of dipping their toes into the real estate investing world. But I quickly learned that wasn't going to allow me to scale to the level that I wanted to get to, and that eventually I wanted to get into multifamily syndication and do what my mentor was doing. And so a lot of that happened. It started to happen in 2016 when I started investing personally into a lot of these syndications. And after I got into about 12 different investments, and I just started to see the benefits of myself personally being able to invest for the cash flow, the capital appreciation, the tax benefits. I started sharing what I was doing with other people in my network, and friends, family, coworkers, and they were really interested as well. And that's kind of when the light bulb went off. It was like, wow, I'm doing something I'm super passionate about, that I absolutely believe in. But how do I help others? Because I didn't really necessarily have a vehicle at the time. I was just personally investing on the side. And then that's when I said, I got to get into the syndication business. I got to find a way to help, bring these opportunities to other people who are just like me, that want to, achieve the same goals and maybe have a little more flexibility in their life, and want to, participate in these types of investments. And so that's when I started McKenna Capital, and things just, kind of took off. I mean, I spent 15 years building relationships, and what might look like in a few years, happened overnight. It didn't. I mean, it was 15, 20 years of building relationships just along the way in life and business and in baseball. And I was able to tap into that when I had, some really good opportunities, and I was able to share that through a pretty big, platform just that I developed. And so, yeah, things really, really took off, and it's been a fun ride. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I feel like this is kind of what I was meant to do. It's just something I get up every morning. I'm energized. I could talk about it all day long. And I really enjoy, the lifestyle it's given me and my family, to be able to have that flexibility. Some people say, lifestyle by design. I'm finally living that, and it feels awesome to be able to wake up every day and kind of, decide what you want to do. I mean, I like to work hard. I'm very busy, but if I want to take the time to, teach my 3-year-old how to ride a bike, I'm going to go do that, and I don't have to really answer to anyone, and my schedule's set up the way it needs to be. And even with COVID right now and what the environment we're going through, I don't know what's going to happen, but at least I feel like I'm in a position that I can adapt and adjust and get through it. And yes, we'll have stressful moments, but I don't have the added stress of being on someone else's schedule and time. And that part to me is super important. And I feel like, I did it through investing on the side while I was in the corporate world. And that's maybe a different path than most would see, but I was able to do it. And, financially through all the investments, had enough cash flow coming in that I could walk away. And so that's really what I'm trying to help others, today as well, just to see that there's other ways to do it out there. And, it's been fun to kind of help people along their journey as well. And it's a great space to be in. And I've met so many people like yourself who's in it as well. And just, I think, from an education standpoint, everyone's very willing to help. And it's just fun to see us all grow together.
Yeah, it's so awesome, and it's so inspiring, just to think back on your journey in terms of recognizing the opportunity when, a friend of yours or perhaps even a teammate even started speaking about the opportunities through real estate, and then picking up Rich Dad Poor Dad, and obviously being open to the opportunities and the journey that may lie ahead, and also being patient and recognizing that you're investing in long-term relationships and a long-term understanding of a long-term business, because it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not any of that, but it is, a get wealthy for sure over time if you do the right thing, if you allow the compound effect to be at play. And so I just find, there to be so much value in your story. And I also find it interesting that you started, obviously with single family homes, as many real estate investors kind of get started on their journey and recognize, hey, this is not really going to get me where I want to go. And then started to really get a feel for what does the syndication model look like, and what does this look like for me as a passive investor, as a busy professional? And obviously that's, as you've compounded that, given you, the financial independence that you speak of, and you mentioned is even the holy grail of personal finance, which I love that. And I totally agree, because it's so funny. I was on a podcast yesterday, someone else's podcast, and they asked me, what's the worst investing advice you've ever been given? And I thought of it and I said, you know what? I think it's when a financial advisor asks you, when do you want to retire? Because to me, that's not inspiring. How about when do I want to have financial independence or financial freedom or financial abundance? And then I can choose what I do with my time, because then I can plug in like you and be busy, but still be fulfilled and be excited and still get to be with my family and the people that I care about and experience those things and go travel and do whatever. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox here, but talk to me a little bit about, passive investing and what do you see, what really separates sort of the most successful passive investors versus, those who perhaps don't reach a level of success through passive investing?
Yeah, I would say for me, my philosophy has always been like, I want to have money in motion. I want to have it working for me when I'm doing something else. And I've never been one that's like, oh, well, I've just got to find the perfect investment opportunity or the perfect time to invest, because I take an approach, I want to diversify the investments I'm making. So not only in real estate, I've done some other investments, other syndications as well. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for myself to build out my own, let's just call it like a private equity real estate portfolio. And a lot of investors out there, I think, try to do that as well. So I'm looking for a blended return. I realize that, different deals are going to perform, better than others. And this is a long-term horizon. So I'm not going to get hung up like a stock where, it goes up and down and it's very volatile. I mean, this is a long-term play for me. So for me, it was just about like getting started and having that money start to work for me, because, you start small and you got to let kind of time take its course, because a lot of these deals you need to go through a few years of then starting to realize some of the capital events like a refinance or an exit. So the cash flow is great, but really when you can start combining that with, the ability to have one investment maybe grow into another because you got a really nice cash out refi. Now you've got, two investments that are coming from one. And that's where it gets fun long-term, because it starts to snowball and then you just keep it, it's like rinse and repeat. You just keep doing it over and over again. And I feel like we've done a good job diversifying, not only with different operators, but just with different geographies. I've invested about 15 different markets, and then take that one step further, different asset classes. So not everything's all in multifamily. We've done self-storage, we've done mobile home parks, done ATMs, we did litigation funding. I mean, there's a lot of really cool investments, but they all have a similar theme where it's really about the cash flow, because that really, especially in this environment, is what matters a lot if you're living off of a lot of your passive income. And then you still have the upside if you're focused in, say, value add, where you're going to be able to create some value in the investment. But then again, the tax benefits that's like icing on the cake here with everything, because you actually, if you're making the transition from the corporate world and you're going to live off your investments, you don't have to make as much money because you're keeping a lot more through these real estate syndications, because of the way depreciation works and accelerated depreciation. So that was one thing that I was looking at as I was going to make the shift. I didn't have to have the high income initially that I had before, because I was giving 50% of my what I was making to the government. Here you're keeping a lot more than that, and the government incentivizes you to make these types of investments because you are enhancing and building these communities up. And so there's a value that you're creating to society for that, and that feels good, as well as being able to make some money through those investments too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that folks, really kind of gloss over a lot, is the tax benefits. And especially even as a passive investor, those tax benefits are really kind of, pulled through or pushed through to you through your K1, and through, those opportunities are phenomenal and it cannot be overstated. And so I just think it's so important to really make a mention of that, but also, thinking about sort of building your path to financial independence, as a busy professional. And obviously many of the folks listening today are busy professionals and they're thinking, hey, you know what, this real estate thing, obviously it sounds super exciting, sounds super interesting. I just don't have the time. I don't know how I'm going to, go out and find a fourplex or find an eightplex or, 12 units or whatever. And so they're starting to say, hey, wait a minute, passive investing, this sounds pretty interesting. So what's the best path? I mean, you mentioned obviously diversification in terms of markets, in terms of operators. Where should someone start when they've, learned that passive investing is an opportunity for them to, build a path towards financial independence? Where would you start?
So I would start. I mean, obviously, I think first and foremost, it's all about educating yourself on just kind of what the lay of the land looks like. And I can tell you, just like this medium here, this podcast. I mean, when I first started, I was listening to podcasts daily. Just I wanted to get as much intel as I could, and through those podcasts, you learn, about other people who are doing what you want to be doing, and you learn about these types of deals in different markets, and over time, through books, blogs, podcasts, I mean, you start to really feel like, wow, I'm gaining a lot of information. I feel like, I can do this. But then the most critical step is to actually take action on it. You could be studying your whole life to get as much knowledge, but if you never do anything with it, it's kind of pointless. So eventually you gotta make that leap into actually doing it, because then you're going to learn along the way, and you're going to make mistakes. But I look at this as like, again, it's long-term. I'm going to be in different investments, and not everyone's going to, work out the way I hoped it would. But, you do enough research, you take action, you just surround yourself with good people. And then, from there, you're going to open yourself up, because once you get in it, you're going to know who the players are. You're going to know how to, evaluate a deal. You're going to know kind of some of the metrics on the markets, what's important, like, the population and job growth. But if you take a diversified approach, you don't have to necessarily go in with like, I got to find the absolute best deal and the best partner from day one. You can kind of go in it with like, hey, I'm going to probably make a series of investments, and I'm going to divide it up, based upon here's what I got to invest. And maybe I'll do it over a period of time. So you don't have to feel like you have to get it absolutely 100% right. Because I think a good quote I live by is Wayne Gretzky: you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? You never take a shot, you never invest, you'll never know. And so I'd much rather, take those calculated risks and put my capital to work with good people that I know, like, and trust. And it's worked for me, and it's worked for many others. And I think that approach, is going to be something long-term that most will benefit from. But yeah, obviously you got to do your diligence. This is your money. It's something that you got to feel comfortable with. But through syndications, you also are, putting your capital into someone else's deal that they're going to manage, and operate. And so you're giving it to an expert. Whereas on the flip side, if you're trying to go out and buy your own rental, I mean, you're now the part-time expert who has a full-time job, taking on a lot of liability, a lot of risk. And I went down that path, and I just, the headaches, I made way less money than I thought I was going to make. And it didn't get me to where I needed to be, but I think I had to go through that experience to kind of know. So yeah, the syndication model, I mean, it opens up a whole new world. I mean, you can invest all across the country, and you truly are a passive investor, but you reap all the same benefits as if you did it yourself. And so that part is pretty cool. And, again, the biggest probably takeaway I could say is, go seek out someone who's doing what you want to do or what you think you want to do, and just try to learn, and then take action.
Yeah. One of the kind of mantras that I love, and I think even the real estate guys, Russ Gray and Robert Helms, they even mention it: education for effective action. So at the end of the day, what is education if it isn't for effective action? You should be taking action on what you learn. So if you're listening to the show, pause it and go find somebody and do a deal and go out there and take action. Because I do think that you learn so much just by participating, and you learn, just through the process. And obviously you want to be educated before you take action, because that's where, big mistakes happen, is when you're not educated and when you're not properly informed. But also understanding that who you're working with is properly educated and informed and experienced, and they're doing the right thing. There's somebody that you can trust. So with all that said, I'd just be curious how you guys are adapting right now, just in this environment. Obviously we've got a quite an interesting set of circumstances on our hands, and the past 10 years have been a bit of a run up from our last market correction, and maybe there's been a market correction in some sectors of the economy. But how are you guys looking at it today as far as multifamily goes? Are you adapting, and if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, we are adapting to kind of this new normal, and no one ever saw this coming, and COVID has, I think made us all take a little bit of a pause here to kind of assess, what we're dealing with, and then what this looks like going forward. But I believe, we're still very, we're cautiously optimistic here because I think prior, at the early onset, we thought things might be a lot worse than what they actually are. So there's this kind of this over preparedness of like, hey, worst case scenario. I think it was good exercise to go through to help us, look at all different angles and just be prepared so that if something like this, happens again, I know we're not through it right now, but I'm sure there will be something down the road. At least we're now all more prepared. But one of the reasons why I really liked investing in multifamily was, the resiliency that asset class has in a downturn. It's able to weather the storm fairly well. Because at its core, I mean, it's a basic human need to have shelter. So I look at that as like, well, that was one of the reasons that was attractive to me in the first place. I didn't know a pandemic was going to happen, but like, you look at other asset classes like retail and hospitality, and it's a much different story. So even though that, the deal flow has slowed down, people are more cautious. When I take a step back and I look at the investing landscape out there, I mean, things could be far worse. I mean, if I was in a different business or made different investments. So even if multifamily, let's just say the returns are, I don't know, maybe not what they were a few years ago. I mean, maybe they're a few percentage points down, or, we have to be even more conservative with rent growth. I mean, at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's still a pretty solid investment compared to what the alternative is. I mean, if the alternative is hold on to your money and don't do anything, I mean, I think, long-term, that's not a great strategy. Short-term, yes, you should have an emergency fund. You should be able to fall back on something. But again, it goes back to having that money in motion. I mean, if I sit on the sideline for 2-3 years to wait for that perfect opportunity, I might have just lost, some very solid opportunities where that money could be compounding and growing. So that's a risk that someone, might be taking if they're not participating. So I've never been one to really try to time it out, just because these investments are typically a 5-year horizon, and you're along for the ride. So I'm a big believer in, as long as you're kind of in the game and you're making smart decisions, you're doing your due diligence. I think long term you're gonna come out okay. You're gonna be fine. I mean, the one thing you need to factor in as an investor is that these are illiquid opportunities. So you got to know when you make that investment that you can't pull it out. So that might be a downside on one perspective, but the other perspective is that I think you get rewarded for that, because there's not this knee-jerk reaction where you get in the stock market where you need to sell something on an emotional decision. I think in multifamily, if you've got a good deal that cash flows well, it's very conservatively underwritten, you kind of can choose your exit, and you can try to time it up to sell in a really good market and get rewarded for that. So that's what we're seeing in a lot of our deals. I mean, yes, we've seen distributions, either been not paid out or maybe cut in half, but most are still paying. But at the end of the day, I mean, if that's what we have to do, we preserve capital. Number one, right now in a scenario like this, it's all about the investors and preserving that capital. And so we've had to put some projects on hold and just kind of hunker down and get through this, and then we'll bounce back. And so probably a long-winded answer, but I mean, I still, I know it's been a great run, and we're in a recession and we're dealing with a lot here. But I'm actually pretty impressed with how well multifamily has held up. I know our portfolio, and just what I hear and see out there, it could be a lot worse. And so I still think, good opportunities are few and far between, but they're still out there.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a brief time out from this show, this incredibly mind-expanding discussion, to speak to the high achievers, the high performers. I wanted to speak to those who have a burning desire to go to the next level and beyond. First of all, I hear you and I see you. When I got started as a real estate entrepreneur fresh out of my W-2 corporate job, I was excited and jubilant to create and design my future. At the same time, my business and life was filled with confusion, filled with fear, doubt, uncertainty, and to be honest with you, sometimes even sleepless nights and hopelessness, even while experiencing what many would have considered substantial success. Ultimately, I mustered up the courage to hire one of the world's top high-performance business coaches to work directly with me on creating strategies, systems, and profound shifts towards accelerating my multifaceted performance and to become an industry leader. After years of investing significant resources into myself and in my business through this process, I am now paying it forward as a high-performance coach to those who feel called to elevate to the extraordinary. Wherever you are right now, you know deep down that you have it within you to be great. If you're someone who's seriously looking to elevate your business, your real estate portfolio, your cash flow, your deal flow, your network, your net worth, your lifestyle, and ultimately your life right now and ongoing for the rest of your life, I have a message for you. Because if that's you, then I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. I have limited coaching spots available to guide people like you who want to substantially close the gap from where you are to where you want to be. These are first come, first serve, and demand high touch, one-to-one focus from me directly to you. And this is not for everyone. This is only for those who are decisive, committed, and willing to do whatever it takes. It's only for those willing to play full out and invest time, energy, and resources into themselves to achieve greatness in real estate investing and beyond, which is what we're all about on this podcast. This is for those defiantly inspired for transforming as an empowered, limitless, and unstoppable human being in full control of their and their business's future. If that is you, I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. Again, that's coachwithtyler.com, where you can apply for this life-changing opportunity. We will then schedule a discovery session where we will directly discuss what's working, not working, and how we can work together to accelerate your future. With that said, enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah, and I love that you've restated money in motion several times, just because it's a great visual, and the compound effect and the growth effect of money in motion is a very powerful tool, and something that we've all got to recognize on our own path to financial independence or financial freedom or abundance, because it's obviously, I don't know who mentioned it, but compounding is the most powerful force on the planet. I think it was maybe Albert Einstein.
It was either or Ben Franklin, one of the two. But
if it's Ben, I just want to apologize to Ben Franklin, because he's like my favorite person in history. So if that was you, Ben, I'm very sorry. That's my guy, man. One of the things that I think is so important for investors is managing emotions. And like, even in good times and bad, it's like equanimity, so I'd love to know, is there any sort of principles or any approaches that you use to manage your own emotions? Like early on in the pandemic, obviously things were pretty chaotic and everybody's like scrambling, trying to figure out what's the best way and what's happening. Is the sky falling or is it not? And, how do you manage your own emotions during times of high stress to remain measured yourself?
Yeah, I have to take a step back and remind myself that, these are typically a 5-year, hold for these investments, and real estate sometimes can be measured in quarters. So just because we're having a bad week or a bad month, in the grand scheme of things, there's still a long way to go. And so I even have to remind investors of that as well, is that, there's going to be some bumps along the way, especially in the first year or two, as you go through a value add process and you have to, react or adapt to certain environments. But it's a long-term play. And if you've set the deal up right, where you don't necessarily have to sell, and you're not in a position where, you don't have, time on your side, that's going to be more challenging. But if you do, then, really the value of that asset doesn't necessarily matter. And, there's only three times it matters: when you buy, when you're going to refinance, and when you're going to sell. Anything in between, things can fluctuate, but as long as you can make good decisions and you have this long-term focus, and you can really, implement the right strategies to ride out a storm like this, I think, you're going to be fine. So, for me, I take the emotions out of all my investments. I've invested in a lot of different things because I take a blended, diversified approach of what my expectations are for a return. And so in my mind, I'm just trying to target, if I can get a 16% return on my money on an annual basis, long-term, I'm going to sleep well at night. And that's a number that I think actually it is low, very conservative, but like, it's my number that I don't have to stress about, don't have to worry about, because I think long-term, with the type of deals that I'm investing in and the diversification I have across the board, if I can hit that, I'm going to be in a great spot and I don't have to worry. And again, I could have one or two deals that maybe underperform, but if I've got enough that are right at that target or above, I'm going to be fine. So I don't get hung up on, one deal or one situation, because again, I'm diversifying into many different investments. And with that approach, it takes away some of the stress because it's not all dependent on, one investment. So that old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, that's I really believe in not doing that. So I try to really diversify for those purposes. And again, the assets we're purchasing, if you're buying Class B, even Class C, and it's a value add. And I mean, these deals are profitable from day one. It's not like we're doing a startup or a development and there's a bunch of risk associated with the first few years of not having any revenue or income. So I think we take a lot of that risk off the table. But then again, you still got to be a good asset manager. You still have to, be good at, all the renovations and the strategy. But at the same time, the cash flow stream associated with, I think, is so important. And especially in times like this, it's something that we all can fall back on and have some comfort that, we'll be okay as long as we can make smart decisions and manage the property appropriately.
Yeah, it always helps to manage your emotions when you know that your strategy is sound and you know that in the long term you will win. And as long as you do the right thing, as long as you partner with the right people, as long as you're diligent, as long as you're ready to adapt and be nimble with that, whatever circumstances present themselves, because we all know that a pro forma is a pro forma. It's a projection, and that reality is always different than a projection to a certain degree. So are you willing to be flexible? Are you willing to roll with the punches? And are you willing to play the long game? Because that's what it's all about. And, aside from investing, are there any conscious habits that you've created for yourself that have served you in terms of, not only developing financial independence, but designing that life that you talked about earlier?
Yeah, I would say I go back to the visualization. I mean, I'm living the life that I had visualized many years ago, and it feels really good to be able to be in that position, because that's what I had worked so hard and what I had, kind of set in my mind and my goals, and to be able to be in a position to finally, have that. I mean, it's something that, had I not wanted that many years ago, my why wouldn't have been so strong, because everything I do it kind of falls back on my family and just the goals that we want to, achieve and the life we want to live. Well, when you have that burning desire and that why, you'll figure it out. And as long as you surround yourself with good people and, you're willing to learn and try to get better every day. I mean, I feel like there's these forces that that you don't even realize sometimes are kind of pushing you in that direction. And, I think with having a good attitude, working hard, showing up every day, and having, a visualization of what you want in life. I mean, the hardest thing is maybe not knowing when you're going to get there. But again, if you enjoy the journey and you love the ride, you're going to have fun along the way. And then one day you'll wake up, you'll be like, wow, I'm here. And then you're going to, then you're going to find the next thing that you want to go chase. And so I also have a gratitude journal that every morning I get up and I have a picture that I put for each day. And then I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that keeps me very humble. And it also allows me to just appreciate, the things in my life that matter most. And it's sometimes the simple things that, like, hey, I got to go for a walk with my family today, or I got to help my daughter, learn how to ride a bike. And those are the things that, those are the experiences that, that mean more than any amount of money you can make, the ability to have the time to go do that, to make those memories. And so be able to reflect on that, I think, is important, because as someone that's always thinking ahead into the future and visualizing, you got to have a way to take a step back and be grateful and thankful for the things that actually do happen in your life that are meaningful, and the impact you have with others. So those are kind of some of the things that I do. And I also try to, tackle the hardest things I can early in the morning when my mind is fresh and the thoughts are flowing. And instead of worrying about it, throughout the day, I'd rather just get it done and be able to move on. So that was something I'd learned, just, tackle the hardest task early on. And then, the rest of the day, hopefully will go a little bit smoother, and you'll have all that behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's so much value there. And I mean, obviously gratitude is super important. I just wanted to just re-highlight that. I mean, one thing I heard recently, and it really resonated and rang true with me, is that, in the state of gratitude, you're really in the state of receivership as well, which is really interesting because when you recognize all that you're thankful for, things just start to show up in more things that you can be thankful for. So it's so important. And not only for us who are, high achievers and those who are driven to, to do more, is to recognize that, hey, look, things that are around us are great now too. The circumstances around us are amazing too. And there's many little things to be thankful for. Even if you're in a challenging part of your life or in your business, there's always things that are going well too. So recognizing that, and it starts to bring more of that to you. And also just wanted to go kind of circle back on one of the things that you said, but it reminded me of the fact that we kind of overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year, but we drastically underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. And just so, plugging in and kind of creating these habits really creates that. And it's through that vision. It's through, setting those intentions. And so I just think there's so much value in that, and also surrounding yourself with the right people. But Ryan, what are you most excited about these days? I mean, what's next for you guys?
I get really excited. I mean, just the simple things and talking to a new investor and, seeing them, kind of visualize or understand like, what they're trying to achieve, and maybe there's a plan set in motion. I mean, those are, my goal is to help as many investors as I can to achieve, financial freedom, or at least to, build a, solid foundation that they have something to fall back on, should they need it or want it someday. And so, there's not a set number in my mind. I mean, I want to help as many people as I can, but I truly enjoy what I do day in and day out. And I think for me, it's just, allowing myself to have more time to help others. So I think trying to get myself out of a lot of the, the day-to-day tasks so I can work on more of the important stuff with the investors and our operating partners, and just kind of the vision overall for our business as we continue to grow and evolve. So that's really kind of, I guess, where I would see ourselves continuing to keep putting effort forward in those areas.
I love it. Yeah. And you're just such a giver and such a presenter of opportunities with everything that you've done. So I just honor you for that. But Ryan, I just want to transition into our rapid fire section. We call it the Rare Air Questionnaire. It's all about raising the bar. It's all about being uncommon. It's all about striving for excellence and continuing to improve and continuing to grow and seek new opportunities and give that to others as well. So with that said, I've got a few questions here for you. Just curious, I mean, if you were to point to 2 or 3 of the most impactful books that you've read, what would those be and why?
So one would be, we already mentioned it earlier, but Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. That was a book early on. I've read that book probably 10 times, but I think that really helped with my thoughts and kind of framing like what it is, I wanted, or what kind of thoughts I needed to have. And I didn't necessarily know at an early age, but it was just the positive thoughts, the belief that, wow, if I put my mind to something, I can achieve it. I mean, that helped me out in many ways, not just with baseball or business, but just in life. And so I think having read that at an early age, there's just something in my subconscious mind that kind of just, you wake up, you're already kind of in that mode. And I don't know if it just throughout the years, just kind of happens as you read enough of those books and your mind starts flowing. And so that was really probably one that set the stage early on. And then there's one that's more recent. It's called Essentialism, the Disciplined Pursuit of Doing Less. That was a book that really helped me out as I got busier in life, just with business and family and everything. But it was really, placing a priority on the things that have the highest value. So what that really means is, like, again, tackling the hardest task early on, and some of the other things that maybe aren't, that important. You gotta be able to say no. You gotta learn how to say no. And so what I learned is that, I wanted to be able to, be a people pleaser and do all these things for everyone. But eventually I couldn't do the more impactful things because my time and energy was getting sucked in so many different directions for things that really weren't that important. So it was hard to kind of get over that. But once I did, it was like, wow, I can do so much more. I can be so much more impactful. I can help, others in a way that, I just didn't necessarily have the time. And so that was again, a really good eye-opening book for me about how I want to live my life and where I want to spend my time, and learning that it's okay to say no to something that, you just don't think is going to be that high value. for you or your family.
Yeah. And just to recap there, I mean, obviously Think and Grow Rich, thoughts are things, and what you think about all day long is what your life becomes. And, I think that's one of the most profound thoughts that, has ever been placed in front of my mind. And it's amazing when you really put that into practice and you really start to plant seeds consciously and let them grow subconsciously, as you mentioned. So I just remember learning about the subconscious mind and now continuing to leverage that. And it's absolutely amazing, the power of that. And then also pruning. I mean, you're talking about essentialism, saying no to things. I mean, I know that, early on in many folks' careers, you got to say yes to most things so you can get more opportunities, you can get more experience, but you get to a certain point where you've got to say no. I mean, is there any big tactics that you've kind of taken away from that in terms of, pruning or saying, hey, this is not for me right now?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that kind of the revelation I had with all this was, there were some things that, I had to say no to, but by just focusing on the most important things early on in the morning, what I realized in the afternoon, some of those things I had to say no to, I didn't even have to say no anymore because the person figured out the question because they took a little bit of time to look at it further that, had I gone and spent time on that, in the morning, it would have taken away from something more important. So sometimes a lot of the no's just go away naturally. Or if it's someone that's reaching out and you're just like, okay, what are the intentions here? Is this something I want to commit to, just by, thinking about it further or not letting it, really take over. I mean, eventually those things just kind of work themselves out. So I've seen a big, I guess a big influx of my time come back to me because I don't feel guilty if I don't go to an event because I just don't think there's going to be value in it. And I'm not going to take a night away from my family for something that it just doesn't seem to really appeal to me right now. Even if someone invited me to it, it's just like, I've got to assess that and make a decision. And when you think about it from the perspective of, your time is your most valuable asset. If I'm not going to get something out of something, I have no problem saying, hey, look, I'm busy. I got a lot going on, but this is gonna be a family night, or something. So it's the ability to get over that. Because at first I was worried about what people were going to think of me, or they're going to be like, "Oh, Ryan just doesn't care," and it's not that at all. It's like I want to save, my time and energy for the work that I can do that's most meaningful to others and to myself and my family. And so when I think about it from that perspective, I don't feel bad anymore.
Yeah. And I know a lot of us, folks that are high achievers or driven or A players or type A or however you want to describe us, it's, hey, we got this fear of missing out. You got the FOMO, or you say, well, if I don't go to that, then maybe I miss an opportunity. And, that compounds on itself. And obviously at the end of the day, we're doing what we're doing to create a quality of life. So remembering that you don't have to say yes to everything and you don't have to fill your schedule to the brim. So there's so much value in that. And Ryan, what would you say is the biggest way that you elevate your life on a daily basis outside of what we've already talked about today?
I would say I'm going back to just positive outlook, positive attitude. I mean, it's gotten me through the dark days of COVID and just dealing with everything, the changes. And I think being able to, deal with adversity. I've had a lot of things happen in my life that haven't worked out. And, here I am today talking about how I love the life I'm living. And I think you gotta, again, just like a real estate deal or life, you got to think about it long-term, that we're always constantly working to get to, a place that we want to be, but you got to enjoy, the ups and downs along the way. And I guess maybe the last thing I could leave everyone with is just, you don't, going back to the quote, you don't know if you don't try something. So I think just, have a curious mind, go out there, make some mistakes, and if you're going to fail fast, learn what doesn't work so that you can spend more time on the things that are working. And if you surround yourself with good people who are doing what you want to do, you'll get there faster, and it'll be more fun doing it with someone else. I really believe in going back to sports, that, just the partnership, the teammates, the teamwork that's involved. I mean, it's the same thing in real estate. We're all in one big partnership here. We all want the same goals. We're all striving for the same things. So it's a fun environment when you can create that and be, working with others who share the same vision, the same passion. And lastly, if you're out there just, listen to podcasts, blogs, and reading as much as you can. I mean, that's great. Get educated. That's the number one thing I would say. But then number two is take some action and enjoy the ride. It won't probably go as as smooth as you think, but if you get knocked down, get back up. And if you take that attitude on life, I think you'll be happy down the road where you end up.
Yeah, dealing with adversity is obviously an amazing way to continue to elevate yourself, because look, we're all going to deal with it. But speaking of others, just real quickly, I mean, what would you say is the biggest way that you elevate others around you?
So I would say it's with giving back to them, helping educate them on just maybe some of the things I've learned along the way that I can help save them time from maybe a path that they were going down that maybe they didn't see, and just sharing, real experiences from what I've dealt with and what I've seen. So I think the biggest thing is probably just the time. I mean, that's what I've tried to free up the most so I can give to others. And I love educating, because I still learn every day from other people. And so the knowledge I learn, I try to pass on. And so it feels good when you can collaborate and share. So that's really where I think, I can make the biggest impact is just helping others, and also sharing. I think we all, in this real estate syndication community, I mean, we all have the ability to create more awareness around what we're doing. And I think, we're just scratching the surface here. And that's the cool part, is that we're all in this together, and there's just so much good that's going to come out of this long term. And we're going to, impact so many lives in a positive way. And just waking up every day, that just energizes me to want to continue to keep building, keep helping others, and keep collaborating, with everyone else who's in the industry doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, I'm super grateful for you to, share positivity with our audience, with Elevate Nation, and sharing so much wisdom today. I know you've really kind of had many mic drop moments throughout the show today, but is there any other parting thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd share with Elevate Nation today? Oh, man.
I guess I maybe would leave you with I'm going to go back to probably my Wayne Gretzky quote. I mean, to kind of sum it all up here, you miss, 100% of the shots you don't take. And I would say, give yourself the opportunity to live life to the fullest, take some risks, take some calculated risk. And I think you'll be happy knowing that you tried, even if it doesn't work out. I'm the type of person that, I'll have regret if I don't try something, and it'll eat away at me. So at least if you go out and you give it your best effort, you can live with yourself and know that you did everything you could. And again, I just think with that kind of attitude and mindset, and if you have a focus and some visualization with what you want in life, you're going to get there. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, well, you certainly are energizing me. You're motivating me to get up off, get out of this chair right now and go take some action, make something happen. Go out there and take a little bit of risk. I mean, obviously calculated risk with an educated, format and platform there. So, Ryan, I just want to thank you again so much for being on the show. Tell the listeners how they can, reach out and learn more about what you do.
So go to McKennaCapital.com if you want to check out our website. From there, we've tried to provide as much information as we can from an educational standpoint. There's blogs, videos, Twitter, all the social sites, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can definitely find me there. I'm always happy to chat, connect with others. So that's probably the best way is to start at the website, and we try to kind of put everything we can out there to have it in one place for you.
Absolutely. That's McKennaCapital.com. And of course, we'll put links in the show notes for all the social media, of course, the website as well. So you definitely want to engage with Ryan. He's as nice as he is in person as he is on the podcast. I can tell you that. So definitely want to engage with him. Absolutely.
Likewise.
I appreciate that. If you wanted to say anything else about that, you're totally welcome to.
No, I was going to say the same. Yeah, you are in person as well. Just very down to earth, great guy. And I'm glad we met. And I'm glad we're, connected again here. I know we've talked a lot since the first meeting and getting to this place. So I'm very thankful for that, to have, close confidants and relationships in this space. I mean, that's what makes it special, and to be able to give to others and to help others along the way. I mean, that's what gets me up and gets me excited.
I agree. That's the exciting thing about our business is that we all just help each other. We all lift each other up, and that's the way to last long term. And it's not only a great way to live, but it's the great way to do business. So I'm super thankful for that, and thank you for the nice comments. You definitely didn't have to do that. I appreciate that. But I want to thank really you for being on the show. I want to thank you for showing up and being so genuine, and I just have so much gratitude for that. And obviously, as we mentioned, gratitude is a state of receivership. So obviously, you allowed us to receive the gifts that you brought today. And I just want to encourage Elevate Nation to re-listen to the show because there's so much gold here. If you want financial independence and if you want that holy grail of personal finance, I mean, really, this is where you start this show and really talking about vision, talking about putting that into action, dealing with adversity and building a network and playing the long game. I mean, that's really what this show is all about. And I want to encourage you to identify what are your top 3 key distinctions and what can you do to put them into action immediately? Because really, we all know about the law of diminishing intent, so to speak. It's like you learn something and then over time, you're less likely to take action. So what can you do to take action now, take action immediately, as well as share with someone else because it's the right thing to do. And also the teacher really is who learns the most. When you share with someone else, you actually anchor in your own understanding, that much more. And you also do the right thing by sharing with someone else. So share this episode. You can either text it to somebody, you can screenshot it, you can post it on social media, tag Ryan, tag myself, tag your friend who you want to teach about, what we talked about today. So I think there's so much value in that. And at the end of the day, again, you got to take massive action because knowledge is only potential power. Action is really the real power. So with that said, Ryan, thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate you having me on. This was great.
Absolutely. Elevate Nation, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Elevate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to elevate your results by taking immediate action on what you learned. For more, visit elevatepod.com.